Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, what can you say about witches? Well, if you may recall, as I said while blogging Ray Bradbury's The Halloween Tree and Pirates of the Caribbean 5, in reality, during the early centuries, women who were highly intelligent were called that. But when it comes to Halloween, people know witches as ugly women who have malignant supernatural powers. And they can be famous around this time of year. What's more, witches have been used in lots of different stories, like L. Frank Baum's The Wizard of Oz, the Grimm brothers' Hansel and Gretel, and of course, Roald Dahl's The Witches. And I've seen many different movies that include witches, like Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, Paranorman, Oz the Great and Powerful, Tamara, and many, many more. Now tonight, thanks to a generous request by my friend Adam Hogan, we're going to look into a classic Halloween witch movie from the early 90s, which just turned 25 years old this year. Released on July 16th, 1993, the movie is Hocus Pocus. Now let's get started. After moving to Salem, Massachusetts, teenager Max Dennison explores an abandoned house with his sister Danny and their new friend Allison. After dismissing a story that Allison tells as a superstition, Max accidentally frees a coven of evil witches who used to live in the house. Now, with the help of a magical cat, the kids must steal the witch's spell book and stop them from becoming immortal. So, what do I think? Well, in my opinion, this movie is a cult Halloween classic. And even though I did not really own this movie as a full, I still think this is a fun Halloween movie. But let's move on to Mustang notes. In the 1994 TV documentary Hocus Pocus Begin the Magic, and on the film's Blu-ray release, producer David Kirshner said that he came up with the idea for the film one night, when he and his young daughter were sitting outside and his neighbor's black cat strayed by. Kirshner invented a tale of how the cat was once a boy who was changed into a feline 300 years ago by 3 witches. Hocus Pocus started life as a script for a special original movie for the Disney Channel to be produced by one of the smaller studios owned by the Walt Disney Company. The script, however, caught the attention of Walt Disney Pictures that decided that the movie was strong enough to carry well-known names and to attract a cinema audience. Principal photography began on October 12, 1992, and the film is set in Salem, Massachusetts, but most of the movie was shot on sound stages in Burbank, California. However, its daytime scenes were filmed in Salem and Marblehead, Massachusetts during 2 weeks of filming with principal cast. Production was completed on February 10th, 1993. Now, this is another movie that I was introduced to from the Disney Channel, and I think I was about 7, 6, or 8. Can't really remember when I first saw it. But anyway, ever since I first saw this movie back then, I think the movie is great to watch during the Halloween season. Now, in my eyes, the way Salem looks in this movie, well, is very good. And I like how the Sanderson sisters' house looks. Plus, the graveyard looks very mysterious. Also, in my opinion, Winifred's spellbook, while dangerous, is pretty similar to the Book of the Dead from the Evil Dead movies, due to it being bound in human skin. Also, like the Book of the Dead, the book cannot be destroyed or burned because it is protected by magic. Some of my favorite scenes in this movie are the parts where the witches chase our main characters through town, as well as Binks' backstory during the opening prologue, and I like the final climax. Plus, the best part of the movie, in my opinion, is when the Sanderson sisters sing "I Put a Spell on You" at the City Hall, which causes everyone to dance continuously. And the part where Max and the gang manage to burn the witches in a kiln is, well, pretty awesome. And now let's move on to the cast of this movie. Our main character, Max Dennison, was originally going to be played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Unfortunately, he declined, and the role was instead given to Omri Katz. Now, Max is a teenager originally from my birth city, Los Angeles, California, who moved to Salem, Massachusetts with his family. Max is, well, deeply pissed at his parents for making them move there. In the movie, Max is the one responsible for bringing back the Sanderson sisters 300 years later on Halloween night. To me, despite his stupidity of bringing said witches back from the dead, I think Max is a brave kid, and he has a big responsibility when it comes to keeping his sister safe. Speaking of which, Max's sister Dani is played by Thora Birch, who got to be in Purple People Eater, Monkey Trouble, and American Beauty. Now, Dani is a headstrong 8-year-old little girl who has no qualms about screaming like a banshee when Max refuses to take her trick-or-treating or making fun of him in public. But Dani has a good heart and does not hesitate to defend him from neighborhood bullies or the Sanderson sisters. In fact, Dani is practically fearless, facing down the bullies without even flinching and pretending to be a witch who summoned the sisters back to life. When they are suddenly revived, that is. Though it doesn't really fool them for a second. But Dani still bravely fights against the witches, hurling insults at them every step of the way. Next we have Allison Watts, played by Vanessa Shaw, who got to be in the 2006 remake of The Hills Have Eyes. Now, Allison is a wealthy native Salem resident who becomes Max's love interest. In my opinion, I think Allison is very pretty, and I like that she forms a close bond with Dani. Plus, I like it when she gives Max and Dani a tour around the Sanderson sisters' old house, which is now a museum. Next we have Thackeray Binks, an immortal black cat voiced by Jason Marsden. Best known as Max Goo from a Goofy movie, Kovu from The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride, and Haku from Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. One day, when Binks was a human teenager, portrayed by Sean Murray, he followed his sister Emily into the woods, but unfortunately he was unable to rescue her from the Sanderson sisters, and after insulting Winifred, he was transformed into a black cat. Ever since the witches were hung, Binks has been guarding the Sandersons' house every Halloween, waiting for a virgin to light the black flame candle. To me, Binks is shown to be a caring, brave, and determined character, and he cares about his family. And after losing his sister Emily, he becomes determined not to fail again, no matter what it takes. Plus, in my opinion, he kind of reminds me of Salem from the Sabrina shows. Also, Binks is very cautious, as demonstrated when expressing that the spell book must be kept shut. During his time with the kids, he becomes attached to Danny and cares about her. Next we have our villains, the Sanderson sisters. Winifred, played by Bette Midler, who got to be in Oliver and Company and Fantasia 2000. Mary, played by Kathy Najimy, who got to be in In Search of Dr. Seuss. Wally, and Cats Don't Dance. And of course, Sarah, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, who got to be in the 1984 Footloose movie. Dudley Do-Right, and the 2011 New Year's Eve movie. Now, Winifred is the buck-toothed oldest Sanderson sister and leader of the trio. However, Winifred is prone to being melodramatic, and she has the power of electrokinesis. Mary is the middle sister, often complimenting and comforting Winnie. Plus, Mary has, well, the ability to smell children and hunt them down. Kind of like that weird child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And Sarah is the youngest and most beautiful of the three. And she has the ability to entrance children with her siren-like singing. In my opinion, these three are the best characters in the movie. Plus, I think their evil plan is very sinister. You see, after they come back to life, thanks to Max lighting the black flame candle, they plot to continue sucking out the souls of all of Salem's children in order to remain alive. Which, in my opinion, sounds like something that Miserable tried to do to Minnie Mouse in Castle of Illusions. Also, the witches cannot set foot on hollow ground, and they only have until sunrise to fulfill their plan. Otherwise, they turn to dust. Fun fact: the idea to cast Bette Midler was partly inspired by her Golden Globe-nominated performance in Down and Out in Beverly Hills. Midler has also stated that Hocus Pocus was the most fun she'd ever had in her career up to that point. I mean, can you blame her? Next is Billy Butcherson, a zombie played by Doug Jones. Best known from a few Guillermo del Toro movies like Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, and the recent Oscar champion, The Shape of Water. Now, Billy used to be Winifred's lover. He died on May 1st, 1693, after she found Billy sporting with Sarah. Winnie poisoned him and sewed his mouth shut with a dull needle, so he couldn't tell her secrets, even in death. At first, Billy seemed like an antagonist, due to him being instructed to get the book back from the kids. But after using a knife to unstitch his mouth, Billy ends up aiding the kids in trying to defeat the Sanderson sisters in the cemetery. Finally, we have these two. These are Jay and Ernie, aka Ice, the high school delinquents played by Larry Bagby and Tobias Jelinek. These guys are pretty much the average Halloween weirdos who steal everyone's candy and throw toilet paper on trees and houses. Also, I hate it when they pick on Max and steal his shoes. But, thankfully, they get their comeuppance when they get locked up in cages after calling the Sanderson sisters ugly chicks. Big mistake, guys. And now, let's move on to my final words. Overall, Hocus Pocus is another classic Halloween movie, and one of my favorites at that. Despite that this movie had negative reviews while it was in theaters, I think this movie has an interesting story, great acting, humorous moments, while some parts can be thought-provoking at times. Plus, I did like several characters like Max, Danny, and Allison, as well as Binks, Billy, and the Sanderson sisters. And I can tell that Bet, Kathy, and Sarah had a lot of fun with their roles. So, basically, I make it a tradition to watch this movie every Halloween season, along with the other great Halloween hits out there. So, I give this movie a full 100%. Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. Be sure to join me for my next blog, where we go into a mysterious house with a clock in its walls. Mustang power.
I am gonna spell on you.